Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Box Office Receipts, where there's actually quite a bit of news going on this week. While movies are not being made or released, deals are still being done to set up for the future. With that said, let's go to the first story. The LEGO franchise is going over to Universal. Last year, the rights to make LEGO movies hit the open market, and it was Universal Studios that closed the deal. The contract between the studio and the LEGO Group is a 5-year exclusive deal. Now this means a few things. First, it is most likely a new LEGO series that will be started, not a continuation of the first franchise, as Deadline states the Warner Brothers produced films will stay with them. This means unless Universal makes a deal with Warner Brothers to use those characters, it ain't happening. This also means a new LEGO franchise where we will see the strength of Universal's IP in LEGO form. This will include Jurassic Park, obviously. There's already LEGO games for the franchise, but I could see Fast and Furious, Jaws, Minions, and others to join, even Shrek. The question here is which animation studio at Universal will make these movies? For Warner Brothers, it was their regular Warner's animation team that did it. But for Universal, they have the choice of Illumination or now DreamWorks. But if I had to place any bet, I would say it'd be DreamWorks. Just doing a quick look at their lineup, they have 4 movies from now to 2021. Obviously, assuming no delays, but we'll see about that. But then after that, nothing's been announced. Yes, there's been talks of a Shrek comeback, but nothing concrete. Meanwhile, Illumination has Despicable Me, Sing, and the Mario movies to work on, so I feel they have a bit more on their plate. This is a big win for Universal though, because toward the end, Warner Brothers kind of mismanaged the release of these movies. With now another brand for kids, Universal will have strengthened their portfolio, and for Warner Brothers, well, they gotta come up with some Looney Tunes movies again. Come on. How's it so hard to see Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck on a big screen? But Universal, if you're listening, please make a Bionicle movie. I would love to see my favorite LEGO franchise on a big screen. Looking at movie delays, we have a few more this week. First, from Paramount, they have pushed back both Mission Impossible 7 and 8. MI7, which was set for July 2021 release, is now coming in that fall, opening November 19th, 2021. The same is happening for MI8, which was set to come out August 2022, is now looking to release on November 4th, 2022. For movies looking to be delayed next year, these were some of the most likely ones, as the movies focused a lot on shooting on location, and with spy thrillers like these, usually in multiple locations around the world. Even if Hollywood gets back to filming in the next few weeks to a month or two, it will most likely be on sound stages where the amount of people will be limited and rotated out as needed. On location, shoots will probably not occur for at least another 2 to 3 months, if not longer, and that also depends on the location. Also coming from Paramount, that sci-fi movie starring Chris Pratt, The Tomorrow War, which was set to be released this Christmas, has now become a summer movie coming out next July. Next up for movie delays is back to superheroes. With Venom Let There Be Carnage moving back to next June, it did not make sense for the brand new Spider-Man movie to come out 1 month after. And everyone who thought about that was right, as Sony has announced that it has pushed back Spider-Man 3 to November 5th, 2021. Now if that date seems familiar, you'd also be right, as that was the new date for Doctor Strange 2, which Disney has announced will now be coming out March 25th, 2022. Almost an entire year since its initial release. You have the Spider-Man movie from Sony, Into the Spider-Verse 2 is actually getting a delay now, coming October 2022. Now some movies from Sony are actually getting a push up. The animated movie Hotel Transylvania 4 has moved up from December 2021 to August 6th, 2021, as well as the often pushed back live-action Uncharted movie goes from October 2021 to July of next year. With all of these changes, Disney has also pushed up Thor Love and Thunder up a week, from February 18th to the 11th in 2022. Now all these changes are made, I think Disney specifically needs to make some more changes now. With the current schedule, there will be 4 MCU movies being released in a 6-month period. You start with Thor 4 in February, Doctor Strange 2 in March, Black Panther 2 in May, and then Captain Marvel 2 in July. So unless they have a movie internally set for the fall, I think Captain Marvel should move to November, give the rest of the movie some breathing room, maybe even move Black Panther to July and then Doctor Strange into May. This way the order is still the same, just spread out a bit more, also because unless absolutely needed, Disney and Marvel are not giving up their first weekend in May spot, so a Marvel movie will be there. Also, these changes do seem to indicate that Sony will be filming Uncharted first and then Spider-Man 3 when filming does resume. Now let's talk about theaters reopening, at least in America. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, states will be reopening in different phases. States like Texas and Georgia will be including movie theaters and businesses that can reopen. However, the National Association of Theater Owners has said that theaters will not open just yet. Quote, while some states and localities are beginning to authorize the opening of movie theaters under certain conditions, the movie theater industry is also a national one. Until the majority of markets in the US are open, and major markets in particular, new wide-release movies are unlikely to be available, end quote. So from this quote, theaters will not open until New York and California open up, and that there are new movies from Hollywood to air. This makes sense, especially having new movies. While there has been talk of theaters showing old movies when they reopen, that is only right now set to be for like 2-3 weeks to get everything running again and for people to feel comfortable. Not to do that for 2 months. And what is the big film that should kick everything off? Well, right now it's Tenet. If no more changes are made, Tenet will bring back the return of theaters, with Mulan closing out July. Right now, Cinemark still plans to start reopening at the beginning of July, and AMC has said that they will not open until there are new movies to be played, so around July. I think as well, Tenet will premiere in July for a few reasons. 1. Pace America is heading, the big states like New York and California will be in the reopening phase for at least a month. Whether that includes theaters or not by July, we don't know. And assuming the states opening up now do not fuck up, and this is most important, they will definitely be at a point where theaters can operate. Again, I think Tenet, Mulan can air fine. I think people will be going to theaters in July fine if we have consistent progress. So Georgia, Texas opens up over the next few weeks. They don't get a flare-up of cases. New York, California move next. They don't get a flare-up of cases. Then it's highly probable you can go see a movie in July, August. But if, cases come back up and then shut everything back down. And still, even if theaters across America, let's say they're all open and they operate at 25% capacity to reduce the spread, this can still work in Warner Brothers' favor as having the first big blockbuster to open post-quarantine. Now, obviously, even with all this happening, you actually still need people to go feel safe to sit in a dark room for a few hours, which could take some effort. Around the industry, layoffs are now occurring at studios, with MGM announcing some 50 people were cut from the studio, which has 750 employees, and the layoffs were across every department. MGM has not said if more would be expected in the coming weeks and months. For MGM, this pandemic has hit the hardest for them compared to other bigger studios because of their movie distribution label, United Artists Releasing. No Time to Die was supposed to be their big coming out party. Instead, they're having to let people go and focus on the latest James Bond release in November, assuming there is not a delay. I hope everyone who is let go lands on their feet as soon as possible. Being laid off during these times are some of the worst, as companies will not be looking to hire for a few more weeks to even months. And with that, I will wrap up this week's episode of Box Office Receipts. I have decided to take a break from the iTunes ranking as nothing huge was released in the past few days, but we'll check on it in the next episode. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.